Hi there. I feel compelled this morning to do a reading for Metal Dogs and also collectively for those of us that identify as Generation X. I read an essay this morning by David Brooks talking about the state that our country is in and the generational politics of that. And it was very thought-provoking, and also because I know David Brooks is more conservative than I am, it also has kind of pushed me to reflect on what I think. Brooks suggested that the baby boomers had set a trend, and then millennials and Gen Zs would set a trend. And I thought, well, Generation X, we're in our 40s and 50s. We are at the peak of our careers. I feel in my career as a professor of history that I'm a master of my trade, and there's always more to learn. That's a part of what the insight that comes with that being promoted to the top of your career, as I hope to be at the end of this year. It seems, after being on the planet for almost 50 years, that I have some perspective, and that there's also perspective that my elders have that is worth listening to, and perspective that younger people have, children and these millennials and Gen Zers. I think collaboratively we are prepared for this moment. And so I just wanted to ask, what about Generation X? And what made us that generation that was that Kurt Cobain epitomized, and even his suicide epitomized, that a generation that checked out, that was unusually well prepared for isolation in place, because we know how to go alone in our homes with our recorded television, and wait. And I know that when I was 18, a part of what was going on was the threat of nuclear war, and that I was raised with the promise of an apocalypse. And so now that I find myself in this time, it feels apocalyptic, but not in a way that intimidates me. It feels promising in that, in tarot terms, we can see the cycle ending and a new one ready to begin. And so my readings have to do with what's happening, and how can I see a way forward? How can I contribute to realizing social justice and environmental sustainability on this planet? What's my part? What is the role of this metal dog, this historian, this Scorpio with Leo moon and Aquarius rising, and what am I to do? And then collectively, what does my generation bring to this moment? How are we specifically prepared for this time? So that's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask first the good tarot, and we can see on the bottom the Ace of Earth. The Ace of Earth is a very 3D new beginning. So it's very much about a new world here. And when I look at this particular Ace of Earth, I see this gorgeous stag on the edge of a precipice, but also kind of holding back, emerging from the woods, this wild, magnificent animal. And so if I think of that as this underlying energy, under that card, we have transformation. The card of Scorpio, traditionally the death card in this deck. And so I see this stag, this underlying energy, is one of waiting to emerge as this transformation happens, which is definitely in the background. So that's the underlying energy for this reading. So the first card is going to be the recent past, and we get the Six of Water or the Six of Cups, which in this deck is about nostalgia and kind of getting over the pity party of longing for the past. In other decks, the Six of Water or the Six of Cups is a very positive inner child message, one of love and soulmates. But in this one, this particular reader tells us, this deck, this tarot designer, wants us to focus less on the past and more on the future. So she's critical of nostalgia and the way that it can hold us back. And I think that's a great card for our recent past. Okay. In the present, we have Patience, which is a card, traditionally temperance, a card of waiting, a card of transmutation, but also that things are going to happen in time, and you just have to wait for everything to come together. And so, yes, we have to have patience. So this would describe the recent past being in nostalgia, and maybe as we anticipate what's coming, and we begin to wonder, what am I to do to make this world? We're also being told that this is a time of patience, of temperance, of balance and moderation. And I see how she's also looking back. And so there is still some of this reflecting on the past, which I'm comfortable with as a historian and as a part of my own personal recovery work, that I take inventory of the past. And I think that is the work of a historian. The underlying energy is the Ten of Air. This is the Ten of Swords. This is a total ending. This is betrayal. It's a broken heart. It's the corpse lying on the ground, stabbed with 10 swords in the traditional tarot. And it's also a card of where the sun is coming up. It's the beginning of a new day. So here we have a very painful ending. I look at her hair. I see her head shaved here. It was the first thing that I noticed when I saw this, was just a sense of her having her head shaved. And when I think about Generation X and what it meant to shave our heads, to go from like long-haired rockers and flannel shirts to that act up generation of punk rock, and really claiming from white nationalists a fashion of Doc Martens, punk rock culture that directly met those early white nationalists in the 80s. At least I was a kid then, right? So when I got to college, what I saw were ACT UP, queer warriors who had taken on this fashion as a way of resisting institutions and status quo of its time. And I think we're in a moment like that again, where we are rebelling with our heads shaved, home without able to go get our hair cut from a stylist. Some of us are shaving our heads, but in a more profound level, a kind of gathering inward of discipline that moves out of that kind of long-haired, free mode. David Brooks said that we are moving from culture of liberation to one of security. And I thought about that on my walk today, and I disagree with that. A culture of individual freedom is being replaced, I would say, with one of responsibility and a sense of interconnectedness. So here's us, Generation X. We are this Ace of Water, the Ace of Cups, a love offering. This is us, this beautiful seahorse, this promising gift of the heart. Beautiful to be represented this way in this reading, I think. So we'll find out more about what that means and how you might relate to that. But I definitely think when you come out of a 10 of swords, that anguish, you shave your head. In my case, then I lie on the couch for a little while, but then I start getting in shape. I start eating healthy. I start getting strong. I start building my heart back up and ready to love again after a broken heart. So this is the people around us. And we get the star. This is a card about healing and wish fulfillment, connection to the cosmos, represented here by the cupbearer, who is Aquarius, who is my dog Ganymede is named after the cupbearer, who is the beautiful Trojan youth brought to Mount Olympus to be the cupbearer to the gods. And of course, it was a romantic offer and a romantic gesture on the part of the god Zeus. I feel like the Trojan youth, that is Ganymede, that is the star, represents young people, right? Millennials. So I see the younger generation there in that card. And perhaps our elders as well, because I also see the depth of the landscape behind her, like that blue horizon. There's wisdom for me in that, and I think when I think about the people around us, the people that came before us, and the people that are coming after us, these generations that we think in terms of, I think of wisdom and perspective coming. Our advice is the Two of Air. This is a card about intellectual figuring. It's often a person blindfolded. She's going inward. She's thinking for herself, but she has a decision to make between two truths. And when I see it in this deck, I see that she has chosen one. She has focused in on the bird that is lower here. The birds represent air and the swords and the intellect and truth. So to me, when I see this card in the place of, advice, I see make a choice. And on the table, I can see her looking backwards. This video is reversed, and so it may look forward to you. But it looks backwards. And so we should remember that we began with a recent past of nostalgia and looking backwards, and also patience is looking in the same direction, waiting, reflecting on the past. The Ten of Air, she looks in the same direction. She is looking at a past of betrayal, I would say inequality, a lack of social justice. But when we get to us, to the querent in this, we are looking in the other direction. We are looking forward. So we're looking this way down the table into the future. And the same with the star, with the people around us. So this advice where she's, again, this figure is looking backwards towards where we began, towards the past, towards history. Perhaps the advice, when I look at it that way, is, bearing in mind history, you have a decision to make. And we'll learn more about that decision as we clarify. And finally, getting a glimpse into the future, we get this wonderful, powerful, golden, dreamy future, the Chariot, black and white horses, momentum, future, powerful, youthful future, very abundant, good future right there in the Chariot. Okay, so we're going to look into this. I felt very clear that I wanted to use the Tarot of the Old Path, which is this beautiful deck informed by Wicca. If you've watched these, you may recognize our Empress, who for me always represents our planet, as well as the kind of abundance that comes up here in this image of the Chariot. This very creative, youthful person who is going to take off on these two horses, I see. Okay, let's clarify. Let's find out about all of these cards here. I love this Good Tarot deck. It is beautiful and evocative and complicated and difficult for me to read. But as I work with it more and more, familiar and able to, and it feels like a building of a relationship in which I learn to communicate with the imagery here. And I think the person that did this deck is actually also someone in recovery. I recognize some of the language of her book. I'm not sure. It's just a sense that I've had. So now we're going to switch to the Tarot of the Old Path. It looks like this. And we're going to go ahead and just glancing at the bottom, we get the Four of Rods, this Four of Wands. It's this, everything is above ground, everything is known, kind of a card. Here we have a family. This often a card about a party, a celebration, a wedding. But in this case, I want to see this card as an underlying energy of now we know, now we see. Much like our Ten of Air, right? She's in acceptance that the betrayal has happened. Her heart is torn asunder. She is grieving, she is mourning, and she will move on, and so will we. So Six of Water. What do we want to know about our recent past? That's interesting. So we have the Chariot. Again, mastery in this deck. This is the recent past. I think it's interesting that our recent past and our future, this is the future, are the same, are full of the same kind of momentum. It makes me think of summer, of a summer of revolution, of the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, and the kind of feeling that we've had that we need to take things back. So that feels like accurate portrait of our recent past. Secondly, we get the Emperor, another very powerful card in the major arcana. He represents the counterpart to the Empress, the institutions of society, the masculine. He's also looking backwards into the past here on the table. And mastery, the Chariot, is riding towards us as it lies on the table. And thirdly, the Magician. Wow, so we could see that in the recent past we had quite a lot going on. We've got this really magical person of the earth, of ancient history. You can see Stonehenge, you can see a unicorn, a wolf. He's got all the tools for manifesting, for making in the world his vision or her vision come true. This is very, actually, but both the mastery, the Chariot, and the Magician, but in today, this Magician especially, are very transgender, non-binary figures for me in this deck. Whereas the Emperor is just, he could be a butch. He could be one of these trans men as well. I love this deck for the way that it plays with gender in my imagination. So clarifying the Six of Water, this nostalgia, this message of like, get over the past. We've got momentum, we've got manifesting, we've got the Emperor's power. Well, let's see what else we get as we keep going forward. We're going to clarify patience or temperance here in the present. So this is a look at what is happening right now in the present. We get the Ten of Rods. This is a time to quit your job card. He's carrying all of his rods. He's working too hard. That's another ending is happening right now. Remember, we get the Ten of Air. Now we have the Ten of Rods. An ending happening right now. It says, time to quit. So you're getting patience and quit your job as your present. Are you quitting your job right now? Are you thinking about it? Is your job feeling like a burden? Mine does. It feels like I work really, really hard and I can never quite do enough anymore because I have so many students and so much administrative junk that I have to do at my job, and I feel like I'm really serving corporate America more than the discipline of history that I'm trained in. And here's your 10 of Swords in this deck. Here's further ending evidence of betrayal. There's the guy stabbed 10 times with 10 swords. Or the gal. Again, gender is very ambiguous in this deck. So right now, 10 and 10. It's funny because this is your 10 of Swords or 10 of Air. This is the underlying energy in this reading. This is happening right now, and now we're aware of it. And finally, should we doubt that something has ended? The Tower. We are right now in a Tower moment. Whose Tower moment are we in? Is it the Trump administration? Is it America's Tower moment? Is it the humanity on the planet? It's something has ended, and the Tower is a kind of ending that comes because you didn't do what you should have done, right? You could have made the change, but because you didn't make the change, it's happening. It had to happen because you didn't do it. You didn't apply your free will to make that change. Wow. And so this is all clarifying patience. So what this tells me is work is changing, the truth is changing, this is a Tower moment. It's not bad to have endings. It's good to have endings, especially when we see the level of injustice in our world and the way that we've betrayed and abandoned and neglected so much of humanity in the pursuit of wealth, this neoliberal capitalism. It has ruined the institutions that I hold dear to my heart, particularly that of academia, but also when I think about patience, the way that she's taking inventory of the past, and the way that these cards are looking backwards and reflecting on what has ended, what is ending, what is now needing to come to an end, is that it's okay to see harmful, inequitable, socially unjust systems end. This is good. It's good. We need this to end. And so the present is we're just hanging out here while all this comes to an end around us. We're powerless right now. And she's got her hand on her heart. Okay. 10 of Air. So this is that underlying unseen things. It's appeared in the present. It's happening right now, this end. What else can we find out about what's underlying right now? Okay, we have the Queen of Cauldrons. She is emotionally mature. She has wears her heart on her sleeve. She communicates quite well about her emotions. And she's also one of the elites. She's got a peach that to me seems, she's a very erotic person, very embodied in her senses. And there's a little bit, when I look at this, and I don't see this, I love the Queen of Cups or Cauldrons. I see decadence here. I see wealth and decadence here. Fine things. And this is clarifying the 10 of Air. So this is a part of this underlying energy, which is wealth. And we see, this was our first card, the 6 of Cups. The 6 of Water is our recent past. So here it is, the 6 of Cauldrons. We see a couple. She always looks like she's pushing him away. And so this seems to me to be a gender dynamic in a kind of conventional relationship. I think of Kamala Harris saying, "I'm speaking." This seems to me to be a movement away from heteronormativity here. This is in the background. So we've got wealth, a card that suggests like we're slightly critical of wealth, of this fine lady with her decadent, slightly sexualized, which bothers me a little bit. So I want always to own and claim our sexuality, and this deck, these cards that are coming out feel like they're making me remember queer movement, starting with ACT UP, the shaved heads here, remember, of our 10 of air. But these cards are clarifying this underlying energy of what has ended. So we see rich wealth, we see heteronormativity, and thirdly, the world. The world just reiterates this is the absolute end of the world. It just means a cycle has ended and something new will begin. There's going to be a portal here, right? And here we see the divine feminine coming forth. She's got the wands, the swords, the cups, and the pentacles here on the corner of the card. She's very much in the natural world, and she is emerging from the stars here. So this is the end and the beginning of the world. So very powerful message here of like magician and the chariot and the emperor, this recent past, a manifestation, political momentum towards justice, tower, 10 of swords, 10 of rods. We're patient. The world, this is an amazing reading, actually. And when we clarify the underlying influences of wealth and heteronormativity and our relationship to our planet that is behind this 10 of air, this is a very incredible description of this moment that we are in. So who are we in this moment? We are the Ace of Water. We have this new offering. This very much speaks to what I've been seeing in the cards for my generation, for Metal Dogs, and now more broadly for Generation X, that we've been made for this moment. And this is the time where you bring forth that love offering. So let's find out a little bit more about us, the Ace of Water, the little, beautiful, gentle seahorse bringing this, I see it as hope to the world. Sweet, sweet, hopeful little seahorse carrying that beautiful Ace of Water. Okay. Here we have reiteration of that, the Page of Cauldrons. This is a youthful, immature, kind of crushy, naive energy, which I think is very beautiful to bring out in ourselves. I personally do a lot of inner child work. Yeah, I see this slightly cautious child coming forth with their cup, which has a beautiful yucca flower growing out of it here. Makes me think of these gorgeous plants that bloom very rarely in the desert. I have to look that up, but yucca don't bloom every year. They bloom every while. So I wish I knew that off the top of my head. I want to say it's like an incredible span of time between when a yucca puts up that incredible sprout. So you'll have to look that up for yourself. It tells me that we, Generation X, we have this Ace of Water. We're coming from our feelings, from our heart. And there's a kind of rareness, that we are rare. And what we bring is unique. And I'm sure that's true for everybody. You know, we'll look at the people around us as well. But it tells us that we have something special to bring. Okay, secondly, the Nine of Rods. This person has been through it. She has suffered. She is determined. This is a person who has the benefit of experience. She knows she's strong because of what she has been through. And thirdly, we have the Queen of Pentacles. She knows her worth, is what I always want to say for this one. Here I see her calm. She knows she has everything. And, when you're at our age, unless addiction or racism, social injustice have kept you down, which queer prejudice, trans prejudice, at this age, because we were born in the 70s, Generation X, we were born into utopian promise. And therefore, by the time I'm 50 and I've had addiction slowed my path down. But at age 50, I have a home, I have a great job, I'm up for promotion to the top level in my career. I know some things and I have some perspective. And yes, I know my worth. And I need to always remember that I have everything that I need. And with this sense of personal 3D material security, I have a lot to bring. I have this security from which to bring this Ace of Water. Right. So I just think of queens in the deck are mature emotionally. In this one, sort of economically mature and secure. A sense of esteem for yourself. So now we're going to clarify the people around us. This was the Star, right? And when I looked at it initially, I thought about young people. I thought about my young dog, Ganymede, the cupbearer, this young Trojan lad that Zeus fell in love with and brought up to Mount Olympus. But I also see that deep blue perspective that makes me think of my elders, and that I ought to always listen to my elders, and that we can actually accommodate the diversity of our perspectives and our life experiences here. So let's see, who are these people around us? We get the Empress. There she is, pregnant with life, representative of the earth, beautiful, peaceful, nurturing amongst the animals. So here I have brought in with the Star, I feel my planet is one of the consciousnesses around me, around us. We have the King of Rods. Here he is, a grown-up, passionate. He's a promoter of the arts. He supports the arts. He's a creative, passionate genius with willpower. I love the King of Rods. He is able to, whenever I see the rod across the chest like that, like he's holding it, I see someone who's able to use resistance. But this is a person of charisma and power. So these are among the people around us. And he's a grown-up. These are grown-up, healthy energies. And then we get the Fool, the young goofball going off on his path. In this card, he seems to have be leaving a baby who's about to go play in the fire, or he is a baby. It looks like he's just putting his hand in the fire. He's learning for the first time things, I think of my Aries friends, always learning the same lesson over and over again. So the Fool is a wonderful, youthful, you have the World Ending card, and you have the very beginning of a new journey. We have this youthful energy. And this is the people around us, the Empress, the King of Rods, and the Fool, to clarify the Star. Okay. I like us. I think we've got what it takes for this world that's ending. Now the advice. Advice is the Two of Air, right? We have a decision to make. It's an intellectual decision. She's looking back at the past. She's looking at that in that direction to the past, and also to like she looks directly across at the present where we saw the 10 of rods, the 10 of swords, and the tower to clarify patience. So let's get a little bit more advice here from the 2 of air. Okay, we get temptation. Beware of your codependence, beware of your addiction, beware of all of those ugly stories. I think Adam and Eve is an ugly story that has shaped our society, and it has really cemented for us on a Protestant foundation. The Protestants emphasize the story of Adam and Eve to talk about women betraying God, blaming women, the kind of inequity between men and women, that he must make her submit as a part of the curse, right? As it keeps us out of the Garden of Eden, this idea that of original sin. It's a suspicion of the flesh, which I think has plagued us for a very long while. And it's definitely a part of this old world ideology that this reading shows ending. And temptation is also, sometimes you can get an idea that you're not good enough, that you don't have anything to offer, you don't deserve love, you don't deserve justice, you don't deserve a healthy planet. And so you might be drawn to quit. So what else do we have? Awesome. We get the lone man. Here he is, the hangman. He is chilling. He is waiting for new perspective. Because we have a 2 of air, a choice here, I want to look at all 3 of these cards and see what the advice is altogether. And thirdly, we get the 2 of rods. I always see this person who's got up on stilts for that new perspective. This person is traditionally in the tarot a manifestor, a person who's envisioning a new world. This card, I just see those incredible shoes and the person looking down at them. So another 2, a kind of reiteration of the 2 of air, a choice. So our advice is we have a decision, and the decision is going to require us to wait for new perspective, which reiterates what we're doing. We're waiting. We're patient right now, right? And the lone man or the hangman says, wait for new perspective, and you can't really do anything right now. I really see him in nature here. I see that beautiful landscape behind him. And I think this is a new perspective that takes us away from this temptation, that old Garden of Eden narrative that we're cursed. And then this kind of beginner, this learning how to walk on stilts is a new way of walking. The wands represent creativity and passion, willpower. So sort of just getting a new perspective and starting out a little bit shakily. The future is the Chariot. So let's see. What does this deck tell us? A little bit more clarification on the Chariot. Our glimpse into that future, which, because of our willpower, can change, but we can certainly get an idea of what may come as current circumstances would suggest. We get the King of Swords. That's great. This deep, truthful person. We get honesty in the future. Really facing the truth. We've been in a period of extreme dishonesty. We can't trust our leaders. And that was a part of what that David Brooks article was saying, is that we're kind of in danger because of a lack of trust in our society. But within this world, the tarot reading world, and the people that are spiritual seekers, there's a great optimistic talk about being able to create a new collective that is out into the cosmos, that connects us in this universal way, a new perspective, right? That we're reminded by the lone man. We're waiting for this new perspective. This tells me it's coming in. It's coming in strong. It's going to be deep and honest and very strong. Okay, what else? Future. Collaboration, the Three of Pentacles, creativity, collaboration. This is definitely about a collective building a new world together, a new world that is based on this truth that we have come to terms with. And we have this very powerful momentum. This to me shows us making this golden, magical world. And the black and white horse to me is very much about unifying and recognizing the value in the shadow and in the light. We ought not be prejudiced always against the darkness, the shadow. It's a very racial narrative, a white supremacist narrative to favor that white horse. The white horse that's in our past, and the magician here. This beautiful, amazing unicorn, yes, but also I see this figure as like I see Stonehenge and the unicorn in the background, and this sort of new earth-based manifesting, definitely non-Western person who is manifesting a new world for us. And that's why this old world, this old hierarchical divine masculine world, that's why it's ending. And that's why we see our amazing gorgeous drag queen riding 4 horses of color into the future here. And here again, there's that same chariot. And finally, in the future, we get 8 of Cauldrons. 8 of Cauldrons, this person is taking his heart and leaving. Interesting. So that momentum of the chariot, this suggests a leave taking. And what it means is not necessarily like you're physically leaving, although it can mean a trip. It can mean travel. It can mean going to other places. And I think the chariot suggests travel as well. But the 8 of Cauldrons or 8 of Cups, you usually will see in the traditional Waite-Smith tarot deck, you see a stack of cups, and there's one missing. It's quite clearly the Ace of Cups that is missing. And remember, that's us. That's us. That's Generation X. That's Metal Dogs and the rest of Generation X, that we are the missing cup. And the 9 of Cauldrons is fulfillment, right? So I see us coming in as the 9th cup that completes this, and that we are actually required here in the future. Remember, we're waiting. Everything's ending. We've got good company. We're waiting for new perspective. Then we got our little 2 of Rods and our 2 of Air. There's a kind of weighing, of decision making, an envisioning that needs to happen. And then we get the truth, we get collaboration, and we get the 8 of Cauldrons, a movement from an emotionally unsatisfying situation towards fulfillment in the 9 of Cups. And you, my dear Generation Xers, you are the Ace of Water. You are what is needed to envision, face the truth, and build this new world. But for now, the advice is wait, breathe, wait for that new perspective to come in. Avoid temptation, avoid codependence, avoid addiction, avoid attitudes of inadequacy. You're in good company. You are the Page of Cauldrons, you are the 9 of Rods. You have that beautiful yucca blooming from your heart, that rare bloom. You have suffered, you have been through it all, and you are the Queen of Pentacles, meaning you know your worth. You know, we've been doing these readings a little bit, and we've seen that we have something to offer. And we're going to get a chance to offer that in the very near future. It's coming. The opportunity to build this new world. Remember, this is what this says. It's our future. It's coming. It's coming. But first, we're going to leave the old, unsatisfying, unfulfilling, inequitable world behind. It's ending right now. Perhaps this is simply about an election that's coming in November. Perhaps it's a larger scale and an invitation on a global scale to a socially just, sustainable relationship with our planet and one another. I hope it's that big. We shall see. Thank you. I hope this was fun for you.